Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We went to movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the favorite bit by bit. Sweety and Sweety are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey, hey.
And the prince took the beautiful young girl in his arms and said, "Will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered. "I will be your princess."
Did they live happily ever after?
Of course, Elizabeth.
How do you know?
Because she was a good little girl. If she had been naughty, the prince would have run away.
What a pile of shit.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Sent Us podcast, your favorite podcast where two Sweety sisters talk about their favorite flicks from childhood. I'm Sweety.
And I'm Sweety.
And today we're covering an often forgotten film of the 90s called...
Early 90s.
Early 90s.
1991.
Okay.
Precise.
Okay. And the movie is
Drop Dead Fred.
Starring Phoebe Cates, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always want to be like Cats,
Cats?
but it's
Cates,
it's
right?
Cates.
Yeah.
If it was Cats, it'd be like one T.
One T.
And
Or
no E. No E.
Yeah.
There is one T.
Wait.
I know how to spell. Let's settle down. The British man by the name of Rick.
1K.
1K. Well, only a K, no C. Why?
That's
Why
right.
can't we
Wow, we're having
spell?
trouble spelling names today.
Oh no!
Not our best, guys.
Okay.
Not our best.
Well, anyways, also starring Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher.
Well, co-starring,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Tim Matheson.
Tim Matheson, that guy.
That guy.
That guy. You know him. He's in things.
Plays a lot of slimy
toad
boyfriends.
people.
Yeah.
That's him. And yeah, some other peeps. But strange movie. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I would file this into that was my filing motion. If you couldn't see on, because
no one
this
can
is radio.
see except me. So it was a good motion.
I actually pulled out a filing cabinet.
You didn't pull
and
it
I
open.
pulled out a
You
folder.
did a weird motion. There was no pulling out. You were just like stuffing it in.
That's right. Yeah. I stuff. I would file this under dark comedy, if you will. Right?
Yes, and I would file it under unclear who this movie's for genre. There was another one of these that we did, right? I remember having the same conversation where we were like, who is this movie for?
Well, now it's watching this as an elderly person.
An elderly person.
Not only my question is, who is this movie for, but also, why do we love this so much as kids? I mean, the obvious answer being like the imaginary friend angle and the gross comedy portion, I guess, right?
I don't know if I loved it as a kid. I think it intrigued me.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Mostly grossed me out and freaked me out a bit.
Yeah, because I didn't find it funny at all as a kid, and in general, I don't really like this movie at all. Haters gonna hate, but I'm just not a gross comedy person.
No.
I mean, I like Dumb and Dumber, but like
No,
this is level of grossness is just not for me.
Well, that's what's confusing about it, because Fred's antics are very childish and gross,
As they're supposed to be.
like boogers. What was the other? Why can't I think of the other movie that we
Tons of
did?
poo. Oh, Little Monsters.
Yeah. It's where we kept being like, "This is gross."
Which is sort of the same theme,
Right. So which we'll get into in the synopsis, but yeah, same kind of, everything he does is kind of gross. So that's why it's confusing for me, because if this is for adults, I don't think they find pleasure in that, and I don't think they identify with Fred as like a good character. On the other hand, I don't identify with anyone as a good character, so it's all doubly confusing.
if it's for kids, it's entirely inappropriate.
No, I don't think it's for
children.
kids.
So, like, yeah, you're right. It's just almost like it could have been that movie where you're like, take your kids and you'll be entertained. You know, like the Pixar.
Did it say
like,
what
thing.
this was rated?
Well, was this before like there were any PG-13 movies? So it was PG, even though
Good
there was like
point. Let's
swears
see.
and bad things. Because there was some like weird sexual jokes.
Yep.
I think there were some swears.
Yeah, the first beginning thing is like she said shit. Little girl said shit. Right?
Oh yeah. So I think it could have been, or maybe like trying to do like a sort of combo, like this is for adults with a kid, like a kid spirit or something like that. I don't know, but for me that falls flat. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know about this movie, guys. I just don't know, and I know people really like it, so I'm gonna be really nice to it. But literally most of my reaction to this movie was ew and a grimace.
Okay, so PG-13.
Oh, okay. So this was the time.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I don't know if that was an after it came out kind of rating or what, but yeah. So we'll unpack the complex nature of the
that I
film
feel.
in a moment. But for now, I think we should refresh everyone's memories.
Yeah. It's a cool plot. I think the story is kind of neat. So really original, if you will. Let's go for it.
Okay.
Sweetie synopsis. Yeah. Snot faces.
Oh, it's like synopses.
Synopsis, snot faces.
Elizabeth Lizzie Cronin is a mid-20-year-old kind of lost soul. She's been...
But you wouldn't know it by the way she dresses.
Right. She dresses like a child, and it's very off-putting. She's been married to this fella named Charlie, if you will, 3 years. Right? Yep.
Been together 3 years.
Apparently, he's been having a little tryst on the side with the last named Annabelle. So she goes to talk to him at the car dealership where he works, because only good guys work at car dealerships. No offense if you work at one. Well, I'll rephrase that. Only in the 90s, I think this was true. It's not anymore, but maybe in the 90s, car dealers were like really sleazy.
Well, I mean, that's still like the stereotype, though.
I guess. Okay. So she goes to confront him about it, and he does that stupid dick face ass guy thing where he's like, I'm so sorry I did this to you, but this is just what my life is turned to. Like, I can't help it if I had a fling with this woman that I was really drawn to and attracted to. Like, such bullshit.
I mean, just initially, it seems like a very mismatched couple anyway.
Right.
So you're kind of like, how did you get together? I'm
As you
confused
always
about
say,
this.
what do they have in common?
Exactly. And I know I get way too real world about stuff. I mean, they don't have time to go over the Lizzie Charlie backstory. But you got to wonder, like, why were these people together? Yeah. I mean, she dressed like a school marm / little girl. Clearly very meek. I mean, as this goes on, you realize that it's really more like a power dynamic, right? And she fell in love with someone who was like her mom, who's kind of controlling. Okay, go on.
There you go. You figured it out. So she has kind of a terrible day, and her car gets stolen.
On her
Her
purse.
purse gets stolen. She loses her job. And
triple
her
whammy.
mom finds out that Charles left her, so she makes her come home with her because she can't make her own decisions as she's 25 years old or whatever. So when she goes home, she starts remembering bits and pieces of her childhood that involve her imaginary friend named, full name, Drop Dead Fred. But I'm unclear because is Drop Dead Fred what you say to make him go away? But she calls him Drop Dead Fred, so I don't understand it.
Because he never really like went. Oh, because there's that one scene where he's
Yeah,
like,
at
you
the
know what to
end.
say to get me
Yeah.
to go away.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like to me he lived in the Jack in the Box, and like that's where he came out of. But then he would appear all the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't like she had to like let him out every time.
Restricted there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he comes back to her life, and he starts causing shenanigans, just like he did when they were little. So when they were little, he would make all these terrible things happen, like breaking windows, staging fake robberies, making gross mud pies in the nice china,
Shaving the cat.
shaving people's cats. It's just Yeah, a lot of nonsense. So she kind of is reverting to that now, and she doesn't. She's older, so she doesn't want him in her life so much. So she's kind of fighting it, and that I think really sets Fred off. So he acts up even more. So of course her mom flips out. She tries to get her friend Janie, right? Yep. Janie, who played by Carrie Fisher, to see if she can see Fred, and she can't. But for some reason, believes her anyways that he's invisible, even though Fred / Lizzie sunk her riverboat house. Wow, that's a big one. We'll talk about it. So after these shenanigans go on for a while, her mom has kind of had it and takes her to the child psychiatrist, who specializes in getting rid of kids' imaginary friends, which I think is questionable.
Well, imaginary friend syndrome.
Right, which is not a thing.
Right.
Unclear in this movie whether this childhood friend actually is schizophrenia or if it's an imaginary friend or some kind of dissociative identity kind of crisis thing. Yeah. Unclear. And I think, unfortunately, we didn't have a ton of insight into mental illness, so I don't think maybe those subjects were broached, but I do think that's what they were going for. So anyways, the psychiatrist gives the mom these green pills. And these green pills apparently make imaginary friends disappear. So Charles comes back into the picture because Lizzie stalks him at his wine party, and he sees her
Charlie party
and is like, "Oh, you look so great."
Yeah, I mean, typical sleazebag.
Yeah.
She shows up and she looks all hot. She has a new haircut, so Fred cut her hair, and so she had to cut it into this cute little chin length bob. She had kind of long, kind of droopy hair with bangs before. Puts on this hot purple dress, high heels, lipstick. She's looking good. She's looking fly.
Yeah, she looked good.
And so he's like, man, my wife's pretty hot. Maybe I'll tap that ass and keep the woman I had on the side, keep her on the side. So he continues and, comes back to the apartment, and the mom had told him all about this, and he has the pills. So he's like, take your pills. I love you. I want you in your life. I mean, he's super controlling and weird, and I don't know what she sees in him. It's just a really another creepy relationship, just like her mom's was. So she realizes, God, kind of I need to grow up. I need to grow up. And really does want the imaginary friend out of her life. So ends up taking all these pills. It slowly starts killing Fred, because I guess the pills, what did the psychiatrist say?
Turn off that part of the brain
who conjures imaginary friends, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Loose science here. Real loose science. So what's really kind of sketchy is that she just keeps taking these pills, and the instructions were one after dinner, one before bed. So basically she's ODing on these psychiatric
she just
pills.
gets real sleepy,
Yeah.
and then falls on the floor.
And but then at the same time is finds out that her husband, Charlie, is actually going to keep his side piece, and she's listening to this conversation, and she's fuck, she's kind of I need to get out of here. But I'm too scared because she can't be alone. So that's her thing, is that, and I guess kind of why the imaginary friend was conjured up to begin with, even as a little kid. She was just very lonely in her house.
She needed a friend.
So Fred has been her friend for a while, and she has Janie, but she always needs someone around and needs someone controlling her life, right? When you are used to being controlled, it does feel very lonely maybe to be unhinged like that. So Fred is sadly dying. She's taking all those pills, but he's come with me. So it's almost a creepy, romantic-y sort of relationship they have at this point. Did you get that? No.
Well, at the end, because they fucking kiss.
No, but even when he's come with me, and he's on the floor, and she falls into him, and then they're whispering, and she's like, Fred,
perhaps. Yeah.
Where are we? It's super weird sexual
she's all
voice.
She's all druggy. I don't know.
I don't know. I was
I
was getting kinky with it. I'm sorry.
Takes her to the imaginary land, which is just an extended dream sequence, but more of a night. I would classify it as a nightmare sequence, but whatever. Anyways, in this, she kind of figures out what to do about Charles and how to get rid of him. And then she sees herself as this little girl in the bed, and she hugs her and says, "It's okay. You don't need to be afraid of the mom anymore."
And she had banished the mom.
And she had banished the mom
Charles
before that. And was "You can't scare me anymore. I'm not afraid of you." So that kind of gives her this sense of peace. And then she says goodbye to Fred, and she says drop dead Fred, and he vanishes and goes away. So then she wakes up and she dumps a salad on Charles's head and is like, fuck you, buddy. I'm out of here. Goes home, tells her mom that, like, you basically kind of what she told her in the nightmare sequence, and says, maybe you should get a friend because you're pretty lonely. And her mom's like, and says mean things, but ultimately is sad that she's losing her daughter. And then she drives off in the car she stole from Charles, which is fine, like whatever. Not sure how long that lasts. And then she stops in to her old friend Mickey, who we think is gay, but I don't think he knows that.
Or is it clear?
He has a daughter, and she all of a sudden starts acting suspicious and is saying things like, oh, I didn't do it, Fred did. He's like said weird words or whatever. And Lizzie says, what? Did you say drop dead Fred? So she's like, oh, he went to like this other little girl, like tell him I said hi and send him my love. It's a really sweet moment. She like comes to accept that she is grown up and she's her own person now, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And that's the flick. So obviously a lot of themes happening, a lot of elements. Just a lot of stuff going on. We got a cat. We have a cat situation.
Please go
Come
away.
in. Your landing gear is down.
Please go away.
So, what should we talk about first?
Boop, 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 boop. Let's go cosmetic. So, worst wig situation in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on purpose or they just had to hire like a B-level wig person. What was going on here? You tell me.
Well, so both Lizzies, Big Lizzie, Little Lizzie, had these awful wigs. And what happens is Fred, in his bad rampages, cuts their hair off at 2 points. So, in the past and in the present.
Yeah.
So they both first begin with these awful long-haired wigs. And then they have medium length wigs.
Are they wigs? Because I think they're extensions.
Or maybe
because you
extensions.
can see like what the short length is. That's why it looks uneven and weird.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but the top looked weird, too. It just looked
so,
very
like
bizarre.
Isn't this Hollywood? Don't they have the best wigs available?
I mean, not everything is Hollywood. Like, it's not a Steven Spielberg production.
But like, I guess
think
if you're gonna cut part of the budget, I guess it's gonna be
like it was
the wig and the CGI because that was bad too.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think they had a big budget because the special effects were so poor. It's pretty clear that there wasn't a ton of budget here.
Right.
It's not the Americans. There's not an amazing wig budget.
That's true.
For this film.
This was also, so 91. So, wait, if I'm doing my math right, that's 26 years ago.
Well, it's about how old Lizzie is. Weird.
Wow. That's weird.
That's weird. So there's the bad wigs. It's very distracting, especially when it's in the long form.
Yeah, it was just.
And then, so they need to get up to the chin length hair is what Phoebe's hair or Lizzie's hair should be.
And that looks great.
It does. It looks
She's
fabulous.
She's a model. I want her hair color. I'm like, well, I kind of do have her hair color.
You could be her. You could be her.
I've gotten the Phoebe Cates. I think I said this when we watched Gremlins. Like, she's sort of. I've gotten that celebrity lookalike a couple times, which I'm totally cool with. She's cute.
But going back to her outfits, she's definitely supposed to be dressed as kind of a little girl. So it's like little girl-isms, I call it. So she's got these like long jumper things. She wears white socks all the time.
Yeah. Unfortunate prints. I guess like Laura Ashley. Isn't that like the trend then? Remember like Laura Ashley was like these patterned Little House on the Prairie dresses.
Yeah.
In like weird floral prints.
Big hairband, like headband things.
She always wears like penny loafers.
Yeah, with the white socks, which is just really unfortunate. Yeah, but it was its purpose was to show that she's still essentially a little girl. Yeah. She's treated like one in most aspects of her life, so that was why they did that. But I understand, but it is very unfortunate. Drop Dead Fred, on the other hand, wears a bright green suit. He has vibrant orange hair. That's his shtick.
And I like how his outfits change, like into what. So it's always a green sort of suit, but will change. So when he's on he finds her on her friend's houseboat. He is in a pirate's uniform, so it's like the green, but like a pirate's uniform version. And then he goes and he's like in this boardroom because she goes to Janie's office, and he's in like a business suit, the green version. And then when he goes to the Charlie party, he has like a more formal tux version of it, and he has like formal hair.
Yeah, and his hair's funny.
Yeah. I think that I like that part of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was cool.
That is very neat. Very creative.
Yeah.
I like his little red boots, his little red booties, if you will. That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Fred. So that's the cosmetic side. What? Okay, so what? Okay, so I'm having. Do you want to? Should we talk about the complicated things now, or do we still want to talk about the more lighthearted things?
I mean, let's do like favorite parts.
Okay. So my favorite part is when Lizzie's at the psychiatrist's office and Fred sees his other imaginary friend buddies. So all the kids that are in the waiting rooms actually have imaginary friend buddies, whatever. And then apparently all the imaginary friends know each other. But the other kids can only see their imaginary friend. So they're all very confused what their imaginary friend is doing, which is an interesting part of this movie that I never thought about until now, which is essentially giving proof to the theory that Fred and these other imaginary friends are in fact real and imaginary friends. Like they are not figments of their imaginations. If there is a scene that none of the kids are seeing, they're only seeing their imaginary friend. I don't know.
Right.
It just seems...
And also that, so Fred has been hiding for years, or, out of, I guess, like locked in that box, essentially, and no one else is imaginary friend, right? I mean, I guess you don't know that, but that's kind of what's you think has happened. And they're like, where you been? Blah, blah, blah. So there is that, like, they know that there's this passage of time. But those imaginary friends have new people now, because obviously they're not the same age as Lizzie.
Right. So
they must just jump around to different people.
But I think, and then in Fred's case, I think that he needed to stay because she was obviously unstable emotionally, and she still needed him, even in her older age.
Yeah.
So that could be why.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a very funny little scene. They all have different personalities. One is super creepy. He's called Velcro Head or something. There's something wrong.
That's the one with his head exploded?
Yeah.
That's wicked.
But there's just like, it's a weird, another terrible mask or something. I don't know. It's scary. But yeah, and then there's like this fat woman one named Namby-Pamby. It's a silly scene, but I think I always remembered that when I was little, and I was like, cool
concept.
Yeah.
That like other people have imaginary friends, but like you can't see them. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Mine, I would say, is any scene with Carrie Fisher. So obviously I love her to bits, and she plays amazing. She was the fun friend sidekick of the 80s, 90s, let's say. She plays that role to like a T. She's so good at it. She's like all business. She's there for you when you need her. She provides like a lot of comic relief. So funny. So like we said, so she lives on this funny houseboat. It's like an old like those boats that are like in the Mississippi, river boats. It's like a riverboat with like the paddles in the back. But it's like a wicked cool boat. It's so cool that she like lives on it. It's not like she's like some lawyer or something like that. No idea why they're friends. Like who knows? But she's really, really funny, and I just love like every scene that she's in.
Well, Lizzie was a court stenographer, was her job, so they probably met in the court system somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, those scenes are great.
Yeah. So she's awesome. R.I.P. Carrie, miss you every day. But, and I said this when we were watching this, I would like to say that she is like the Judy Greer of now, or maybe 10 years from now. I mean, maybe is Judy Greer not the sidekick? So Judy Greer is like the skinny sort of bird-looking woman that was like Jennifer Lopez's best friend and The Wedding Planner, 27 Dresses' best friend.
Oh, she was?
Yep. She's a lot of different people's
Yeah,
best friends.
like early 2000s, I would say.
So I love those ladies who provide that sort of like directness, like, hey, like, listen to me.
Yeah.
I love you. I'm here for you, but like you're fucked up.
The voice of reason, if you
Yes.
will. Yeah, and the Carrie Fisher character is so interesting. So what happens is with this houseboat, so Fred comes and Lizzie thinks she sees Charles in a speedboat
So
in the
weird.
marina, and she's like, "Is that him?" And
Do they even have a boat?
No, and we're watching it, and she's like, "Yeah, I think that's him." And I'm like, "Bitch, no, it's not. It just looks nothing like him. He's wearing a weird ass hat. I don't think it's
She's
Charles."
going off the rails at that point.
Right.
She's like, here's an idea. Let's start up the boat and chase after
Yeah,
him in this
so-
giant riverboat.
Even without Fred, we're like, she cray. So she fires up the boat, like goes after him, tells Fred not to touch anything, and Fred, of course, touches the red button, which causes some beeping noise. So he's like, "I'll go down to the engines and figure it out." And to figure it out to him means attack all the important gadgets with a giant wrench so they break. And then all this water comes out, there's smoke, it's bad. And then the next thing you know, she's walking through the lawyer's office soaking wet, and she like gets Carrie Fisher's attention and is like, hey, like, I gotta talk to you. So she comes out and she's like, "So bad news. You know that houseboat you had? Well, it sank. And Carrie Fisher gets mad, but not as mad as I would get if someone just sunk my entire fucking house in the bay or whatever.
Well, I was more upset that Lizzie wasn't more upset that she basically ruined this woman's life. Literally all of her possessions are on this boat. They're now at the bottom of whatever fucking river that was. Like, hello? Like, would you be able to give a little bit more tact?
Well, I mean, she was going
She
off
was
the rails at that
crazy.
point, so I don't know. But yeah, but Carrie Fisher gets mad, but not that mad. And then we find out later that it was kind of a blessing in disguise because the boat was worth a lot, so she actually does get insurance money, even though I feel like they would investigate that and be like, someone just fucking sunk this boat on purpose.
They do not have an imaginary friend clause in the boat insurance.
Just like she said, yeah. So she gets a lot of money from it. All is well. She forgives her in the end. But ultimately, good friend. And Carrie Fisher's character also does something rather odd in that she believes that Fred is real, but that he's imaginary.
That was my second favorite scene.
Oh yeah. So Fred goes in like the boardroom and is sitting with all the lawyers, and she's like, Lizzie's like, "Oh, he's in there. Shh, like wave to him, like so, wave to him, or he won't." Sorry, weird. Cat,
I'm here.
Things. Wave to him so he won't cause trouble. And so Janie's like, he's in there? Like, I'll go get him. So she goes in there and is like, "Excuse me, I need this chair," and she like wheels it out into the hallway. And then thinks that she's like strangling Fred and like mimics like mime strangling somebody.
And takes her shoe off
And
and
takes
starts,
her
like,
shoe
pounding
off
him.
and is beating him. But meanwhile, Fred has like gotten up from the chair like forever ago. So he's just watching her do this. Then she makes a fool of herself. But she really went with the gag. Like, wow. No.
I know. That's why she's the best.
Disbelief.
She really saved this movie for me.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, but yeah, she's the greatest character of all time. So the one part that a lot of people seem to remember is that, so Fred does this thing where, and this is what I remember most vividly from this movie, is when Fred like gets on his back and like goes under women's dresses and looks up them. It always made me so uncomfortable and very icky feeling. I was always like, I know this is wrong. Men are not supposed to do this. Like, it's very gross. So the first time he does it is when they're in her mom's house and he looks up her dress and goes, "Oh," he's like, "cobwebs," which obviously we did not get when we were little.
Right. I'm just uncomfortable that there's any sexual component to him, I guess. That I know he like is an adult, so the possibility is there, but like why would a little kid's, best friend have like a sexual component?
Yeah, that is
To him?
suspicious. Hopefully he didn't have that sexual
And maybe
component.
they were doing it kind of like we said before, like right. I don't think that's never shown when she's a little girl, but you think he would be fixed?
Well, a good example, same kind of thing, is that when she's little, he refers to her mom as Mother, or what is it?
Mega Beast.
And then when she's older, Lizzie, he says Mega Bitch.
Okay.
So it adapts
So maybe he does grow
when
with
she's
her,
older.
like, a
Yeah.
little
So
bit.
I guess that makes
Okay,
sense.
that's fine.
Yeah.
But it still made me feel like uncomfortable and like ew. And then he had like the wherewithal, let's say, to be like grossed out by like the mom's vagina, but to go nuts for like the hot Bridget Fonda vagina. That was like kind of weird to me. I don't know.
Well, that brings up another important question, which is, do you believe he's real, or do you think he is a part of her like emotional void or whatever?
I mean, I waffle.
She created.
I waffle between, because the thing is that the stunts when she's a little girl like do not make sense that a little person would be able to do. Mm-hmm. They're just not. You're telling me she's grabbing a hammer and like breaking windows and putting all that stuff in bags and burying it outside and like going out. I mean, I guess the mud pie thing, like,
yeah, I guess, yeah.
But like most of it not.
Yeah,
so
you don't think that she could do that, so it's confusing. And then the imaginary friends sequence also puts a wrench into the plan that I had. That was where she has obviously some kind of mental disorder that's making her see this. And I like to imagine this movie that sometimes what I find interesting is that they have scenes without Fred in them, and it's her reacting to what Fred's doing to her, but they don't show Fred.
Right.
So you get a look at what she looks like from an outsider's point of view who doesn't know about Fred or see him. So I always think it's interesting if you imagine what the movie would have been like if the whole thing was like that, and that it would just be really sad, right? It would just be really like, wow, look at this mentally ill person who's doing all these weird things, talking to people that are not there, doing like weird like motions every time she sees something. It would clearly look like a person who has schizophrenia. So that's why I thought that.
I'm really torn though. I still can't decide even almost like how they want you to see it. I mean, I don't think it's supposed to be like a Sixth Sense thing where you're like, oh, like, whoa, he was never there, you know? Like,
And I think that, so with that mental illness look at it, I think this movie has a whole other side to it that a lot of people miss, and certainly missed in the 90s when it came out. So virtually all the critics panned this when it came out. I don't think anybody liked it except this one guy, and I'm just going to read you an excerpt from his review that I find very moving and important. So this was Carl J. Schroeder, who wrote for the Mystical Movie Guide.
sounds professional.
Sounds very professional. And he says, the imaginary friend is cavortingly rude for a reason. He served to push the girl child, that seems unnecessary, a description, the girl child to do mischief for attention and as a cry for help. Now grown up, the woman has forgotten and is about to lose her soul, so events call for some kind of literal return of her demon to force the exposure of her pain. This psychic crisis is poignantly realistic. The creature who is visible only to the woman is like a poltergeist of energy of her repressed self, a problematic ego container into which her powers of assertion and creativity were poured and stored. The movie's resolution is startlingly beautiful. So he obviously had a whole different outlook on the movie, which I find interesting.
That's a great take on that. If that was maybe more evident to everyone else.
Right. And I think that they definitely took some things off the deep end.
Yeah.
Specifically with Fred's character. He's just so wacky.
Right. And I think so that's probably the problem, and a little bit dismissing a serious subject with almost too much wackiness and a way too quick resolution at the end.
Right.
I mean, that ending was so like a throwaway. Like I feel like they could have done. They spent way too much time on the wacky bullshit and didn't spend enough time at all on her figuring out why she was like that. Because suddenly she's just like, boop.
Yep.
Like,
and
I'm okay.
Yeah.
And, like,
and the confrontation with her mother is not. I always thought it was like a big blowout
too.
thing at the end, but apparently it's not.
I'm not afraid
just
of
wanna,
you. Poof. Okay. Like
no, but that
all
was
I
in the
needed.
dream sequence. Like, I mean, in real life, she's just like, get a friend. Like, stop being lonely. You were mean. And I mean, I just want to kind of I want to like go in the movie and be like, bitches, go to a go to a therapist, not a psychiatrist. Go to a therapist and talk this shit out. Like, this is some serious bullshit. So something we didn't talk about and that I forgot is that Lizzie did have a father, and his name was Nigel, and he was British, which is interesting because Fred is British.
Right.
And he was always very nice to Lizzie and kind of avoided the problems that she was having, the acting out. He just considered it normal and was like, it's nothing, it's no big deal, everyone has an imaginary friend, that kind of thing. So he was always, it was kind of like a good cop, bad cop situation.
Yeah.
But one night when Lizzie's mom is like, we're getting rid of Fred, we're taping up the music box, and Lizzie's so upset and crying, and the dad's like, you're going too far, you don't have to do that, like, that's unnecessary. And she's like, what do you know about raising a child? And he takes his coat and leaves and is like, apparently nothing, and just leaves without...
Right. So I'm really mad at the dad, because clearly that mom, you know, you're supposed to think that the mom is the root of like all of her problems, which I have like another take on that, because honestly I watched this and felt kind of bad for the mom. I'm probably not supposed to, but I did. But like, what a shitty dad. He knew how horrible that mom was, and he was just like, later kid I'm supposed to love. Like, what the fuck is up with that?
That was surprising, and I'm assuming we were to believe that she never sees him again.
But you don't know that.
We don't know that, but it seems like it. I don't know.
I mean, there's nothing mentioned about him in her new adult life. Right. So that's like, I guess what's assumed.
Odd.
But like, so shitty.
Yeah.
So that would wreck you. Like, so they're saying that like it was the Fred, and maybe this is the thing though, that the Fred being like tucked away ended her spirit and whatever. But coincidentally, that was the same night her dad died. So maybe it was really that.
Well, not
she
died.
was like went away. Maybe she was like pairing the two together. And even in subconsciously and being like, oh, because I think, but that's not really mentioned again.
Right.
Maybe you're supposed to
kind of
think
swept
that.
under the rug. But
yeah.
I do find it interesting that she would have a British imaginary friend and her dad is British.
Right.
So, and her dad was always very kind to her. Right. And you can see it in the scene in the breakfast where the dad spills the Wheaties on the floor, and then Lizzie makes the mud pie. Her mom comes in and she's very terrified of her mom and like really scared, and the look on her face is like, I'm so scared. And then her mom yells at her and she kind of cries by herself. But then all of a sudden Fred's there and she's happy again and so excited. And it just, I don't know, it just did something. Did something to my heartstrings.
It sounded like the mom says at one point, like, serves me right for having a kid to try to save a marriage. So it seems to me that they're trying to tell you that she was born from like a loveless marriage, or like almost like a fix-it baby, let's say. So she was not really like wanted anyway. She's an only child and she was very lonely. She probably saw her parents fight a lot. So she conjured up this imaginary friend to help her feel less lonely, right?
Right.
But, you know, the imaginary friend though but makes her act out in these horrible ways, which doesn't repair the relationship with her mother or make her mother any warmer to her, and she didn't really like her anyway.
I don't think that was the intention, though, right? It was just to get.
Why was he so bad, though? Why were they only? I understand like having a friend and having someone there, but it was only bad things he was doing.
So when you're little, you do bad things. I guess classified as bad. I don't know, because it's just like fun to do. So for instance, here's some things that I did when I was little that I don't know why, but I just did them. So I, for instance, one time filled the newspaper mailboxes with rocks. So the newspaper delivery guy couldn't deliver the newspaper. Right, I don't know.
We've mentioned some
it's
of these
not
before.
like he could, not on the podcast. No, I don't think so. I threw a bunch of sticks in the road so that no cars could drive by.
No, we definitely mentioned this for Little Monsters because this is the same. Like this is the same theme. Like
fine,
kids.
Whatever. But I did those things just because it was fun to like do bad things. I don't know why.
But theirs was so bad and so awful though. I mean, the messes that were made, breaking windows.
Because you don't like messes. Yeah, I mean, seems
this
very
was over
stressful.
the top stuff.
Yeah.
So let's imagine that your kid was doing that. That your kid was causing fake burglars in the middle of the night.
I like to think that I love my kid and they wouldn't do that. But I think that was the problem, though, that she was never loved. That mom never was kind to her or loved her, and that it was always like that.
I mean, I'm not defending the mom, but it's just is like I can understand like what would you do if you had a kid like that. I'm not saying that you should be mean to them, but it's like, you know, what would you do? You would take them to a therapist. I'm sure you would try to do anything to get them to stop doing that. I mean, really, the question should have been like, why did you conjure this imaginary friend? It's clearly like you're unhappy and you're using something to fill that void or whatever. So you make up this imaginary friend. So it's like trying to figure out, why is my kid unhappy? The woman was obviously a monster, so she was really selfish and thinking of herself. Like, I get that. But it's just interesting, this dynamic and just what we talked about. Like, why do people make up imaginary friends? Like, why is that such a childhood thing? I don't know. you maybe had an imaginary friend, Sweety. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I had a lot of imaginary scenarios. Well, scenarios.
Oh, it's just friends.
So I had
I had a whole village.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll get into it. But I had a vivid imagination when I was little. I was very active and I was very proud of it. I documented much of it in my diary that you then threw away, which I was very upset about.
Yeah. I mention it once a year. We get it.
Critical piece of history that is just gone. But my main imaginary friend was named Lisa. And she was just always like my friend when I was little, and then also my friend when I was a little older, and pretended that my bicycle was a car. And I'd be like, I'm going to Lisa's house, and then like drive my bike / car like to Lisa's house. So Lisa, in my mind, was pretty. She had long brown hair.
Is she your age?
Yes. Long brown hair, a white dress of some kind, a pearl necklace, and a beret.
Nice. She's fashionable.
I know. I'm not sure, where she got that from, but that was Lisa, and she was great. She's my friend. But I also had other things where I pretended I was a puppy in a litter of puppies.
I was going to say, is her name like Live It Up Lisa?
No.
Like Drop Dead Fred?
Oh, that's silly.
Live it
No,
up.
it wasn't
Live it
that.
up. Lisa's
No,
coming to
it
town in
wasn't-
a convertible and beret.
No. But I also pretended I was like in a litter of puppies, and that I had like 2 sister puppies, and we all were like the best friends. So like stuff like that.
Okay.
Which is weird because it's not like I wasn't lonely. I had friends. I had lots of friends and toys and everything. So I had you, even though I feel like
We
at
played
that
pretend
point,
all the time, though,
Yeah,
no?
but this was after that. I think you had your own friends at this point, so maybe that's why. I don't know, but
And you didn't have your own
I did. But it was just when I wasn't playing with my friends that I had this other like imaginary world
that's the
to
thing.
go to.
I feel like you didn't. I don't know. I think I had like ballet or something, so I was always off at ballet, like doing
Yeah.
that stuff. But when I was there, maybe like, and you would play in your room a lot by yourself. That
Yeah.
was like
That's my
something you
jam.
really like to do.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah.
Play school, play. I'm a mom and have 2. I'm a single mom and have 2 babies.
You
That was
really
a
did
fun.
have the
That was a
best-
fun game.
You had the best imagination. I will be as a
No,
witness.
I also dated JC Chazé
Yeah.
seriously for a year as an imaginary
and
boyfriend.
and that's by the time you were like 12, right?
No. And then or maybe a little older. And then when I broke up with him, Instinct broke up, and I was like, this is all my fault. He can't deal with
You
it.
did it.
I'm Yoko Ono. But like reversed. I broke up with him instead. I don't know.
God, you robbed us of all the talent.
But that was my life. But yeah,
That's funny.
I love that. And I love that kids have that thing, even though now it's a little scary because a lot of the horror movies are like picking up on how creepy that is for a kid to be like, don't forget to give Charlie some food. And you're like, who's Charlie?
Honestly, I'd be a little creeped out about it now. But when this movie started, I feel like the initial scene where he like comes out, so he's in this Jack in the Box. And the reason why he disappears when she's little is because he gets taped up and he can't get out of it anymore. So she goes back to her mom's house in the beginning and finds the Jack in the Box. So just like picks it up and looks at it and is like kind of like, oh, kind of. Because I think she kind of had blocked out Drop Dead Fred because she doesn't really remember until she sees the childhood friend Mickey randomly in the courthouse. She just gotten fired. She was a court stenographer. And he was getting a divorce or something. So he happened to be there too. And he was like, man, like you look so like put together now. You were such a bad kid. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like I was a great kid. And he's like, oh my God, you had so much trouble. Like, and remember all these pranks that you did basically. And you're always like, Drop Dead Fred did it. And she's like, Drop Dead Fred. So she hadn't like really had blocked it all out. So she goes back to her mom's house and she finds the little Jack in the Box. And it's taped up, so it's like she's not able to open it. So she like puts it on the windowsill, goes to bed, and then she wakes up in the middle of the night. I think she has a dream about him, and then wakes up and like the Jack in the Box, the handle is like moving and making that like do 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 do. So creepy. And I turned to Sweety. I'm like, this is basically like the premise of an amazing horror movie, and they really could have made this a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, what if he was like turned into like some like psycho killer? Like he wasn't just like doing pranks; he actually like killed people.
That'd be interesting. And there's probably many horror movies like that. Yeah, fuck Jack in the Boxes though, for real. Like, worst toy ever. Why do you want to be scared all the time? It reminds me of that scene in Elf where he's like, you're being banished to the toy testing department, and he just has to test Jack in Boxes, and he keeps freaking out every time it opens. And then there's one that doesn't open, and he's like, oh phew, and he rests, but then it jumps out anyways.
And it's like a scary like clown laugh. It's like,
and he's like, oh, I hate you.
So good.
Yeah, fuck those. So I just quickly. So I noticed. I never knew this.
It's not like a full keyboard on those things?
Yes!
What is on those buttons?
Oh my God, my mind is blown right now. Okay.
So,
all right. So I noticed, hopefully you can't hear a loud plane in the background. I'm sorry if you can.
Because we just talked about court stenographers.
Okay, so we're talking about court stenographers. And then I just had a flash of her doing the stenography in the courtroom.
These big chunky keys.
And it's like this teeny little typewriter with these big keys. And I didn't realize that, wait, those aren't actual regular keyboard keys. So I Googled it, and it's this fucking weird thing. There's like it looks like 6 buttons, maybe more. I don't know. So the keys would be like this. So you got like TPH on the top, and then FPLTD, K and A down there. How do you learn that? So it's like a whole new keyboard you have to learn.
It's not QWERTY.
I had no idea that stenographers didn't use. I just thought they were typing on a regular keyboard.
And just they're just so fast.
Yeah, they're just really fast typers.
Or you know what I thought? I thought they were words on the keys.
So they had every word possible.
Like the most common words were some keys.
And then what happens if there's
and then they have to type out the rest of them? I don't know. This is like a dream. This is like Emily's world. Like Bobby's world.
Seems complicated. Yeah, I'd like to see what your world looks like.
A keyboard with every word in the English language on it.
I can't find eggplant. Where's eggplant?
There it is, way over there. 2 miles away. That'd be pretty cool. Good story. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm jealous. I did not have any imaginary friends. I think I have an okay imagination, but it's not quite the caliber of yours.
Mine was just amazing. I could literally sit somewhere and just be lost in this imaginary, like in an imaginary world for hours.
Yeah, you really
not
got
like
it.
doing anything, just like sitting on a bus.
You got it, sister. Couple interesting trivia things.
Okay.
So initially they wanted Robin Williams to play Drop Dead Fred, which I could totally see, but it would have taken the movie and I feel like into such a more sweeter place.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been gross.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been so crass,
wacky.
Yeah,
and because even when Robin Williams is crass, like he's not. I don't know, So I could see it like working, but this movie would have such a different tone.
Yeah.
I think I would have liked it
I'd like
better.
to see it. Yeah, I'd like to see what that looked like.
And then they were also going to do a sequel with Russell Brand.
Which should probably be super crass.
Did not happen after Alfie or whatever he was in, that like remake of Alfie, maybe.
It was.
Yeah,
dear.
Tank.
Dear.
So the world was robbed of a sequel. Wah wah.
But the reason, did you say the reason Robin Williams did not do it?
No, but I know. So the reason was because Hook came up at the same time, so he chose.
Yeah, which is
character.
interesting because this is kind of a reverse Peter Pan situation.
Yeah.
Well, if it was from Wendy's point of view. So, like, if Lizzie is Wendy and Peter Pan never grew up, which he doesn't actually in the Disney movie, not in Hook. But remember, he comes back and she's like old, or maybe that is Hook. Now I'm forgetting. And Wendy's old. And he's like, "What happened to you?" And she's like, "I grew up." Yeah. So it's just reminded me of that. Yeah. And the whole movie kind of has a fairy tale element to it, which is interesting because I always thought that the mom was her stepmother in this.
Yeah, me too.
And I didn't realize until we watched it tonight that it's her real mom. What a jip. Sucks.
It's real sad.
Sucks so bad. But yeah, that was good trivia.
Yeah.
Good trivs.
So, and then we also found out today that Phoebe Cates is married and has been since like maybe late 80s or early 90s to Kevin Kline, who is like awesome and I love him.
I thought he was gay.
They have 2 kids.
It's confusing.
She's 53 now. Wow.
That's not that old.
I don't, it feels old to me. I mean, she's 20
You're right.
years
That's pretty
older
old.
than me.
It's pretty old.
I
Yeah.
mean, I guess
All right.
that makes sense, but
Yeah.
I just didn't like, I don't know. That just seems like, wow, she's like old. Crazy. And then Bridget Fonda plays a cameo in this. And I said to Sweety during this, I'm like, man, like miss that bitch. I haven't seen Bridget Fonda like so long because she doesn't really like do movies anymore.
The way you were talking about it made it seem like she was dead or something. I was like, did I miss
Well,
something?
basically, like dead in Hollywood. She hasn't done anything in a while.
Did you look up her thing?
Well, no, but have you seen her in a movie?
I don't know. Maybe she's doing Hallmark movies. I don't know. Don't count her out.
I don't know, but she's just such like a foxy little babe.
Should we make, if this is true, should we make a documentary called Where Did You Go, Bridget Fonda? All right.
What was her last movie?
2002.
Boom.
Snow Queen.
That's
TV
like
movie.
Quite a while.
Chris Isaac's show after. Yeah, so like nothing of importance. Oh, she was in that Monkey Bone movie.
Oh, nice. Yeah, 2001. I mean, that was like when I graduated high school. So good for you, Bridget Fonda, for stepping out of Hollywood. Your family's super famous anyway, and you like don't.
She's fine. Yeah.
Wait. So her dad is Peter Fonda, and her aunt is Jane Fonda. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Granddaughter. No.
No.
Oh yeah. Wait. Yep.
Yeah.
Actor Peter Fonda.
And Henry Fonda.
Henry Fonda's grandfather, niece of Jane Fonda.
I mean, that's insane. Imagine if like your whole family are like Oscar-winning actors.
I mean, there's other ones like that too, right?
I know, but I just can't. I mean, like that's just like your normal life, being like, oh hey, like we're so fucking famous, crazy.
The only movie I know of hers, or that I've probably seen, was
Single White Female.
I feel like that was it.
Shag.
What's that?
That's the one I keep telling you about.
What?
We're watching it.
No,
You guys have
is it about a dog?
No, it is about. It's like basically like Dirty Dancing.
What?
4 girls like have this summer of their lives. It's like a weekend, 4th of July
Sisterhood
weekend.
of the Traveling Pants?
Pudge, she has a dance off. Annabeth Gish. Come on.
Who's Anna? Wait, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. You'll look it
Weird.
up later.
Weird. I don't even
She's
see
in
it.
tons of
Otherwise.
stuff.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put it on the list.
I love that
Oh
movie.
my God, Phoebe Cates.
Yes, that's their friends.
Wow. Okay.
Get it together.
Okay. Oh, there's Annabelle Gish. Oh. Okay. Mystic Pizza. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. A couple of random 90s things in this that happened. Strange string concert at the mall. I just feel like malls used
Malls
to
were big in the
be
90s.
a big deal, and cool stuff happened there, like fashion shows and
We wouldn't know. Our mall was
symphony.
horrible.
No, remember when it was cool? It was but it was a little.
We
there
have
were, like,
5 stores in Orange Julius. That's all there
Yeah,
was.
but there were like those big flower pot things. Seemed classy.
That
to me.
was cool.
I don't know. There was a McDonald's. What do you want? I was excited.
Small town. There wasn't
So yeah,
McDonald's.
there's like this weird string concert. It's very odd. And then shirtless / waiters wearing togas at fancy wine parties seemed extravagant. Reminded me of Death Becomes Her, just like unnecessary like male nudity.
And actually, you know, it seemed 90s too. Well, especially like her mom's house was that weird. What is that decoration we've called it, where it's like fake plants everywhere and like weird Art Deco?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That
like
like
a
Art
thing.
Deco
Yeah.
look?
Big
Ugh.
plants.
And almost like Art Deco clothing. Remember Mom had like pins that were like
Our
shapes?
mom?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like weird shapes to them and made out of like almost like paper, but not.
No.
And all her earrings were sort of like geometric
Yeah,
shapes.
I remember those. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And
it
there was
a
like
style.
blazers, you know, the blazers
Sure.
with like the sharp shoulders and like also like a lot of patterns with just like shapes and big bright colors.
Yeah,
no?
it wasn't a
Think
kind.
of like Saved by the Bell.
No, I remember. But it just like wasn't a kind fashion period.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't cool
Not
like
a
the
lot of that
80s.
stuff is coming back.
It wasn't cool. The 80s I feel like was kind of cool. I mean, most things.
Yeah.
But most fashion in the 90s, I can't find anything that I think is cool
overalls?
today. See, I don't find overalls cool.
No,
like,
but they've come back now.
oh,
Mini backpacks.
yes, but I didn't want them to come back. I wasn't like, dear overalls, please come back to me.
What do you want in the 80s that has come back?
I mean, just like, I don't know,
Leg
lace.
warmers, tutus for skirts. I just wore a lace dress on my birthday. I love that so much.
See? It's cool.
It
like
is cool.
Cassandra purple lace
I felt
or
like
something.
Cassandra.
I guess that was 90s, but whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, guys. I don't know.
Anyways, I don't know. Like, this movie is interesting. I think if you watched it now, you'd feel a little differently than when you were a kid, because I feel like it is like slightly novelty, and the guy is wacky, and you as a little kid, you're like so drawn to that. But it's not that funny when you're older.
Yeah, so I'd like to hear from some of you of what you remember about this and why you love it or loved it or if you still love it, how recently you saw it and why you still love it. So if you would like to chime in on the convo, find us on Twitter.
And it doesn't mean we don't value your opinion.
I'm just very interested.
Yeah,
I would like to know.
It's just like it's really, I mean, this is why we're doing this podcast, right? Like, we remember this movie a certain way, and then you watch it 20 whatever years later, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah. So find us on Twitter. We're at the Sweety Club. Come and start a convo with us. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
Don't forget us on Instagram.
Well, you can't really start a convo with us on Instagram.
Sure you can. I get tons of comments.
But a convo? Oh, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. And so on Instagram, at Large Marge sent us. So come find us there. Sorry, I'm still very intrigued by this stenography.
Sweetie is quitting her job
keyboard.
And go back to school to become
Well,
a
now
stenographer.
this is confusing because now I think they've updated it.
Are there words on the keys? Yes.
No, but there's this teeny keyboard.
My God.
Which is missing some letters, so I don't know what this is. Google. That's not what I wanted.
We need to do some research into stenography.
Whoa.
Two-handed? Okay, this is too much. Then you can go real fast.
Yeah.
But wow.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Oh, man. I need to see this in action. Okay. So, anyways, we'll touch base next week when I take my first stenography class.
It's like a business meeting.
And let you know how it goes. But in the meantime, keep on being awesome. And we'll catch you next time.
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Bye. Bye.
Welcome to Film Roast.
Hey everyone, Hannah here, the co-host of Film Roast, where two overcaffeinated and underqualified friends talk about all things movies. If you like film factoids, lots of sarcasm, and bad impressions, check us out on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. You can also follow us on Twitter at Film Roast Show and like us on Facebook, facebook.com/filmroast. Happy roasting!